and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of MWF Talks with David Rhodes. I am your host, David Rhodes, and alongside me today is one half of the MWF Tag Team Champions, the men of business, the Spider Slayer, the Human Tiger Lily. There's a lot of other names here, but Aaron Ace.
It's a 30-minute show. We don't have time for all my achievements.
That's right. There's a lot of names to list off there, but so how does it feel to be tag champs again?
Wonderful. You know, they always say you never get over your first one, but you know, one of my favorite athletes, my favorite championship is always the next one. You know, so
yes, that's a good way of looking at it. I know I've held the tag titles on separate different occasions with different people, and there's always something special about the next one that you get your hands on. I don't know if it's more important than the one before it, but it's maybe in that moment it's more important.
Kind of revenge on the guy that took it from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you and M3, Mad Matt Matthews, you guys are picking up some steam. You're rolling right along. I see that you've also picked up another person that has jumped on board, and you know, it looks like you guys were kind of in a cohesive state last show. How do you feel that you guys will be doing moving forward?
Well, with the men of business, we travel as one. We are one. You know, Matt and I had that momentum, and with JJ coming in, it's just going to add to that momentum. We're going to keep plowing through competition. People thought what we were doing before was dastardly. They haven't seen anything yet.
All right. So a little bit away from the ring here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been wrestling since I was 16. I'll be 31 next month. So that's a long time to be doing this. I come out here every show, not for these people because I could care less about them or what they think about me. But there is one person in the crowd that I do this for, and that's my 5-year-old son. So that's why I do this. That's my world, my rock. And that's why I fight so hard to do the things that I do. So
you say that your son's what kind of pushes you and drives you to do bigger and better, to do things, you know. With your son, I know it's very protective, and you would do anything for your child.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with that, do you have like a superstition, a ritual, or anything like that you do before you come out?
I say a prayer. You know, I'm a believer. I'm a good Christian boy.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So I do take the time to say a small prayer, I watch tape too, kind of dissect what my opponents are going to do from match to match, kind of see, oh, well, they do this, maybe I can counter with this, or maybe I know how to get out of the way with this. You know, kind of like with the head spring kick with Keith, I was able to counteract that and hit the stay down on him. And he stayed down for a little while.
And that's the thing, you know, as a father, you do this to push yourself, make yourself better, to give your child something almost like a legacy that later on in life they can look back on. But then at the same time, you're doing these things to where you're watching film, you're watching tape, you're pulling up YouTube, you're looking at stuff on your phone and everything. Like, does that interfere with you as a father?
No, because he's at that age now where it's pivotal. You can kind of let them get the feel and kind of see if that's something he's passionate about doing too. I'm a firm believer of they're never too young to start learning, you know, and at that age their mind's a sponge, so he can kind of start absorbing things like that. So that's one way that we do spend time together, is watching wrestling, and he boos and cheers his favorites and those he likes and stuff. So.
Well, I know that, you know, my nephew's 9, and he knows a great deal about a lot of things that we do, and a lot of children don't have that. And he's a diehard wrestling fan, and then he gets to come up here, and a couple of the guys will take time and get in the ring with him and spend time with him, and it kind of blows their minds that he knows how to do these things that he does at a 9-year-old. Do you think possibly moving forward that he might pick up after you and possibly want to get in the ring, or do you think that he may be more of just a fan and want to sit and watch?
Oh, absolutely. I think he's going to want to get in the ring. After the show, he's always clamoring, trying to get in. He's always wanting to come up here with me early and get in the ring and do that stuff. But my focus right now is on my mission at hand. So Maybe one day. When he's a little older.
So your mission at hand now, and I know that every wrestler has had their moments of greatness, their great failures, and then there's that in between. Tell me of a time where you've possibly suffered an injury of types, or you got hurt in a way that you look back on it and you're like, wow, man, that was a big thing. Where at moment, maybe at the time it wasn't.
I've had three decent injuries while doing this. Fractured a rib. Hit a guy with a DDT, and his shoulder, when he popped up, landed right into my rib cage. Broken my nose. But the worst one was I hit the ropes, and my leg kind of gave out. And there was a guy, he was probably close to 300 pounds, while my knee was twisted, landed on top of it. So I was in a leg brace for about 6 weeks. That was probably my least favorite.
Sounds like that would kind of hurt.
Yeah.
So you've been around now for a little while, and you've had your fair share of matches in the ring and stuff. Here in the MWF, who is one of those guys that you enjoy being in the ring with? Whether it's for the physicality of it, whether it's for the, you can get something different, or even a selfish reason. Like, who is one of those people here?
My favorite in-ring opponent here, because I know I'm always going to have to be on my toes, always going to have to be at that next level, and I like challenging myself, hands down would be Chaos Keith. Just because I feel like he's a smaller guy, so I can use my power on him. But he's one of those guys who you have to be smart with. You can't just go in and think you're just going to dominate and bully this guy.
We had him on the last episode here, and we were talking back and forth, and the two of us only got to wrestle one match together. But he said that one match was one of those moments that he can look back on and see that he did things that was different, that he didn't do with other people. And a lot of people see Chaos Keith as just the flippy, high-flying type person, but he can actually do a lot of different things.
Yeah, he can go.
And alongside that, your tag partner, M3, which is his brother, he also can go in a different way.
Yeah.
They have different gears almost that kind of hit at different times, and one of them's more technical or the other one's more high-flying, but at the same time, they can switch that.
Yeah.
I know you're in the ring with M3 a lot more, and you can see that from the ring apron. How does that translate to you? Like when you're watching him, like what goes through your mind?
Matt's one of those guys who's so smart. He's been around the business his entire life. So just like little things, like after the match when we're watching tape back, I could have done this different. And then you'll see him apply that the next show. It's not one of those guys who hesitates to pull the trigger on something new. If he thinks he can hit 90 degrees better on this move, he's coming in, he's going 90 degrees precisely. So it's always evolving with him. So again, that's one of those guys, or Matt's one of those guys where it's never still. It's always evolving, always improving, and it's one of the things I like about tagging with him, is because he challenges me to get better. I'll get a text, hey, have you thought of anything we can try? Have you thought about anything we can do? So
you're constantly trying to improve, constantly trying to do different things. I know that you and I have spent a lot of time texting back and forth on different moves and different ways you can try things and stuff. And I feel like at this juncture that I've become kind of a fountain where people go, hey, let me throw this in and see what happens. And, and if I kick it back, then they're like, okay, well, it's not for me. And we've discussed a lot of different things, and I see them in your moves. Like, you change things a lot. You like to keep things fresh. Like you said about Matt, it's never that stale thing. You have your few moves that you like to do every match because you've learned to perfect those. You can do those.
Right.
But what's a move that you've always wanted to do that maybe you've never been able to?
Yeah, that's a good question. Guy my size, I've always wanted to be able to fly off the ropes, but I'm also terrified of heights, which is kind of ironic. I don't know. You kind of threw me off on that one.
I'm good at that.
Yeah.
Like for myself, I always wanted to springboard. I can never jump high enough to be able to springboard off the ropes. I would get off the ropes and flip and fly over and do whatever I wanted to in my earlier career. Like that was me. Like I wanted to be that flippy guy. And then as things progressed, then I was like, all right, I'm not going to do as much flippy stuff because it kind of takes away from what I'm doing. So for me, that was always a springboard. I wanted the springboard. I've tried and tried and tried. I've never been able to do it. So that's why I wanted to ask. I know there's more guys than me that's always wanted to do stuff that never been able to do it. So speaking of never been able to do it, who is someone that you've wanted to get in the ring with that you haven't had the chance to yet, or you will never get the chance to, that have passed through the doors here at MWF?
Man, there's so many. You are on that list. Seeing you work Brad Adams, I was like, man, I could really do something special with this guy. Hojo's another one of those guys. You know, I watched Hojo and Outlaw, for that matter, grow up, or as I was growing up, a fan here. The Psycho Superstar, I got to give a shout out to him. Growing up, that was probably my favorite guy to watch. Just that intensity.
I only had kind of a match with Psycho Superstar. We were in a three-way, myself, him, and Mikado. And I remember the way that the match ended. I went to do a Caprana or a backflip off the middle rope, because people's not going to know what a Caprana is. A lot of people call it the lion salt. And when I went up to do it, Mikado caught me off the ropes with a Shining Wizard and ended up making me fall on top of Psycho Superstar. Then he jumped on top of both of us, and we lost that match because, being young, I did something careless, and that was the only time I ever got to be in the ring with him. I've only been in the ring with Outlaw Keith Matthews in a three-way tag match for less than 30 seconds. We never got to wrestle him. So, you know, there's a lot of those people that's come through that you're like, I wish.
Yeah,
You know, you want that.
Ironically, Adrian Wolf is another guy that I've got a history with. Never had a match with Adrian Wolf. A lot of people go in disbelief of that. We've tagged several times, even here, but never been one-on-one with a guy. There's another one I feel could challenge me.
I sit and I look at the roster that we have now, and I see such potential, such a lot of guys that have got that next gear that they could get to, and they just haven't yet. And I think, man, I'd love to be able to get back in the ring and do some things with these guys and stuff. But that opportunity will probably never come for me. And I never want you to feel short of that. Like, if you know that there's somebody you want to wrestle and that you have the opportunity, you know, make that known. Go to the higher-ups. Tell them, look, I think I can do something good with this guy. Don't sit back like me and just go, well, it'll happen eventually, and then it just never happens.
Right, absolutely.
So you've wrestled with MWF for how long now?
It's been a little over a year. Let's see, I got here last February.
All
so
right.
16 months, give or take.
And in that 16 months, you're a two-time tag team champion.
World Tag Team Champion of the world.
And then that's been, outside of being a Spider Slayer, of course, it's been kind of your crowning achievement here.
Yeah, absolutely. Eventually, you know, I want to be the guy who completes the Grand Slam. You know, I have personal goals. Like, to me, I want to be the top guy. I want to be the heavyweight champion. I want to be the North American champion. I'm very proud of being a tag team champion. Another one of my big goals is I want to be the guy to headline Brawl Games. That's the event here.
I think I did once. I wrestled here for 8 years, and I've held 8 different championships. So it's almost a championship for each year.
It's a good career.
But when I look back at it, I go, I was a 2-time heavyweight champion, 2-time North American, and then a 4-time tag champion. And I always considered myself an all-around performer. But it seems to me like the tag champions were where I was able to really harness what I needed to kind of. Do you see yourself as more of a tag wrestler? Do you see yourself as a singles wrestler? Like, how do you view yourself? Because every wrestler views themselves differently than what other people view them.
I see myself as a chameleon. Very adaptable. I love the art of tag team wrestling. I think it's a little lost art in the world of wrestling. Just being able to partner up with someone who you can trust to have your back and have their back, and you know. But I feel very talented as a singles guy. I had some good matches with Keith. I had the good matches with Mikado. One of the few guys here to ever make Mikado tap out. So fans will disagree with that statement, but he tapped out.
I actually have a a souvenir from a match that Mikado and myself had, and I actually ripped his mask off during the match. And I have the ripped mask at the house from where I grabbed the eye socket and I ripped that mask apart and then pulled it off his head. And it's still in tatters, and you could still see some of the hair and things like that from his head where I just grabbed a hold and ripped. And I just held on to that. And also the match that I had with Brad Adams, we had those chairs, and like one of those chairs that were super damaged I have at the house because my body did that to those chairs.
Right.
I wish I could say that I made Brad's body do that to those chairs, but unfortunately it was mine. Do you have those mementos, should I say, from your wrestling career? Like when you look at things, you're like, this is where this come from, and you can immediately go to it and say, all right, this is...
No, not really. For me, it's always, we're on to the next one. You know, if you're continuously looking back for me, I feel like I'll never move forward. So for me, it's always about what's next, who's next. No copyright infringement there, but I think I do have one thing. The first pair of shoes I ever wore in a match, I have those put away. Put up in my closet, they're ripped apart, so I have that.
I'm at the end of my road, so I can look back fondly and be able to say. But one of the things that I always enjoyed doing was when the Super Shows rolled around for the MWF, I always tried to do something different with my entrance attire. And actually at the house, I have a curio cabinet with 3 different masks in them that I wore during the entrances, different outfits. I have 2 containers full of things that I used as entrance gear. So do you have that spot in you, or that soft spot for a show to where you're like, I have to make this show count? Like, this has to be special.
Yeah. For the last 2 Super Shows since Brawl Games, we've taken on the masks, kind of tweaked up the entrance theme a little bit. Refer to it as purging, getting that extra aggression out, because this guy, or in the case of Brad Mikado, these guys have been making us miserable, so it's time to go rip them apart, and it just kind of helps us channel it to that next level, the aggression.
For myself, Ground Zero was always, I considered, my show. That was the shows that I tried to really step up on, and Brawl Games is that show. It's, like you said, it's the biggest show, and everybody steps up at Brawl Games. Do you have a show that you consider your show, or do you think that every time that you step out there, that's the time that you shine as an individual?
I think everybody has that one show that's special in their heart. For me, everybody's going to say Brawl Games. That's the big show of the year, which I'm also undefeated at, might I add. Onslaught. I had the I Quit match with Mikado last year. I wrestled through terrible virus. Never quit. You can never make me say I quit. So to me, I proved something to myself. And I think I proved something to Mikado that night too. So I'll probably have to say Onslaught.
And I'm sure that other wrestlers will pick different shows for different reasons and things. And when you sit back and you look at your history while you're moving forward, you can take a glance back as you're moving forward, and you say that you feel like that's your show. That's what you do your best at. That's when you're at your peak. I'm one of those guys that when I was in the ring, I always went, hey, I could do this differently, or I could try this, or I could do that. And like I said before, we've talked on the phone a lot, texting back and forth about the different things that you're able to try and stuff. What do you have hidden that maybe people could look forward to, that or do you want to spill the beans on those things?
Don't want to give out my strategy.
I'm with you.
There's one in particular that I can think of right now, but I'm saving it for the right time. So
I always gotta hold them by something there, so that way they've got something to look forward to.
Yeah, if they know what's coming, I'll watch. But
what would you consider to be one of the most dangerous matches you've ever been in?
For me, probably the Texas Tornado tag. You were there that night. That's the night Brad Adams tried to rip my head apart.
Yeah, you come up with that giant spot in the middle of your head that was just
Yeah.
pouring blood from the ring apron.
He turned me into a sexy Harry Potter.
Hey,
But that was probably one of the more scarier moments. And just that match, it's chaos, it's pandemonium. You know, like from a fan's point of view, seeing matches like that, yeah, it's awesome. You know, but for the guys that's in there, the risks are turned up a little higher because in a normal tag match, you know, it's dangerous in itself. But in a tornado tag, you got bodies flying everywhere. You don't know whose foot you're grabbing, whose arm's hitting you in the face or anything like that. So for me, that's probably one of the more dangerous.
what type of matches have you been in?
Let's see. I've had the tornado tag, the I Quit. Done cage matches, 6-man tag matches, elimination matches. I really like elimination matches, especially when you get the upper hand on the other guys. Falls count anywhere, street fight, no DQ. No ladder matches though. It's a heights thing.
I've done one, and it was different. It's when the ring moves, it's hard to keep your balance when you're so far up, and so it's a different type of.
Yeah.
I myself have always been that person that I think that hardcore wrestling is something that has been diluted, and a lot of my matches were hardcore stipulations at times, but I always try to do things differently.
Right.
Like I didn't just go out with we wanted blood and guts and things, and I always tried to make it special with every match.
Right.
And when I list off a resume of matches that I've been in, a casket match, a cage match, a pole flag match, you know, I quit match, first blood match, like a lot of different things that basically the rules are out the window.
Right.
And one thing in particular that when I think about all the matches that I've done, Brandon Power's retirement match is like, I feel like the peak of what I've done because we literally tore the ring apart while we were finishing that match. And then myself and Christian Taylor were wrestling Van Damage and Mikado, and I had the bright idea of putting Legos out on the floor. And then Mikado reversed a suplex, and I got suplexed onto the Legos on the hardwood floor outside of the ring. That has always stayed in my mind. Like, it is seared in there in a way that, like, when I think about Legos, that's my first thought. It's not, hey, I can build a no, it's I got suplexed on that on a hardwood floor. Is there a moment like that for you that's been seared into your brain that, like, when something happens, you immediately go there?
It didn't necessarily happen to me, but I was doing another show where, and again, going back to hardcore wrestling, and it was blood and guts, and that's all it was. There was blood and guts without reason.
Yeah.
And guy comes in the back and has a fish hook stuck through his face. So now every time I see a fish hook, I think of his face, just how pale he was, and it's like, this is stupid.
Yeah, you got to get that back out, and that's going to rip you back open whenever you're trying to pull that fish hook out, and it's going to be a yeah, okay, thanks. And now I got that image in my head, and that's going to be something that's
You're welcome. Glad I could help.
So I know that your dad is very supportive of your career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Has there ever been a time to where he was like, look, I'm not going to support you?
No. Of all the people in my life, not counting my son, obviously, but my dad's always been the one solid. I can go to him for anything. You know, I could say, hey, I need advice on this, and he's not going to sugarcoat it. He's going to tell me how it is. You know, if I do something in the ring and I go too far, it's like, hey, what'd you think about that? You might want to be careful crossing that line. And I'll either make my own bonehead decision or I'll follow his advice, but he never interferes and he stays supportive regardless. So
yeah, my dad was one of those guys that he didn't want to come to the wrestling shows and watch me because he knew that what I would be doing would be something that he didn't want to see. But yet he would still come and watch, and then later he would tell me, I wish you didn't do that. You know, you're going to end up hurting yourself, and you're going to be in a place where you can't do certain things. And being young and dumb as we all are when we start wrestling, I was always thought that I was invincible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now I'm sitting here looking at, I have neck injuries. I've cracked my tailbone. I've broke 2 thumbs. hyperextended my knee, got several concussions, messed up my neck. I don't know how many times I've messed up my neck. Trying to do backflips, land on top of my head, and taking moves, laying on top of my head, and I've had so many injuries. Matter of fact, I've had my head split open. I'm missing a part of my nose from getting hit in the face with a piece of wood, and it literally just took a chunk out of my face. So now looking back at it, I'm like, man, like I have the memories, but at the same time, at what cost did I that I have these memories? My wife is a little bit more pushy than what my dad was, and she actually told me not too long ago that if I ever tried to get in the ring again, that she would take something that I love very dearly and destroy it in front of me, so that way that she could feel that I could feel what she's feeling. And I respect that, and I sit behind the commentary table and I mind my P's and Q's for the best part I can. We all know that I have a mouth on me, and that's not going to stop me from saying certain things.
Absolutely. I've met your wife. She's a little intimidating.
She is, yes. Actually, matter of fact, she's talking about a bayonet earlier today.
Yeah.
So that was fun to listen to. So moving forward, what do you feel like is the next thing for the Aaron Ace?
The next thing for the Aaron Ace. It's a good question. Breaking ground, moving forward. Having my MWF checklist of things I want to accomplish. And strategically, with the MOB, putting those plans into place to get to where we want to be. You know, like I said at the start of the Ace cast here, it's not just the Aaron Ace. You know, we're a cohesive unit, so we support each other's goals, support what each other want to do, and we strategically plan for this. You know, go back to the Brawl Games beatdown of Mikado before Brawl Games. I had no business in that. That was between he and Matt. I was there breaking glass and busting bricks over his head too. You know, so we're a family in the MOB. So our goal is to bring every championship to the MOB one way or another, to be the guys that when people see us come, they know somebody's about to get hurt. They know these are the guys. If this was prison, we're the big dogs that people find and try to knock out. That's how I want our legacy to be, the big guys in the yard. So.
I mean, that's a strong legacy. It's going to be a lot of work to get you there, but I feel like it's doable. But I want to thank you for joining me in this episode. And I feel like we've got to know you a little bit better, even if they didn't want to. We've got some things about you now.
That's their problem, not yours.
I've enjoyed it thoroughly. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on another episode here of MWF Talks with David Rhodes. I am the living legend David Rhodes, and he is...
I'm the Aaron Ace. Check out the Ace Video Diaries.
And once again, thank you for joining us. Until next time, adios.